everybody, Invisiblekatana here, and today I would like to discuss the future of virtual reality in the gaming community. So I've been saving this one up for quite a while because it's an idea where it's like, it's VR gaming. It's been out since, the PS2, technically, you want to go back to Virtual Boy and stuff like that. But VR gaming has been a thing for at least a couple generations, and I'd say it really hit once, I'd say more so, PS4 generation, where it's like, hey, here's the PSVR. The PlayStation VR, you have a full-on headset, you have dedicated VR games, you have dedicated, concepts, all that stuff, and a bunch of cores to go along with it. And then they upgraded it to the PSVR 2. And sadly, with the upgrade to the PSVR 2, they upgraded the cost by an insane amount where it was, I can't even remember the original price. They lowered it, but I know the original price, I want to say it was $500. It was insane. It was basically like buying another console and not having anything to play on it, especially with the unfortunate fact that they didn't do backwards compatibility. That really sucks. That's honestly, I think the worst thing about the PSVR 2 is that the price combined with the fact that there were so few games that actually transported over that it was like, well, why the F would I buy this? There's, a quarter, not even a quarter of the games from the original PSVR have been transferred over. However, the reason I was saving this is because I have a PSVR 2. And I finally got to play. Over the weekend, I finally played it. I've had it for a super long time. And I just, life has been life, and I ended up getting it just in a crazy situation that I wasn't expecting. And so I was like, okay, I have it. And then I just hadn't played it because I've barely been really playing anything because of just how life has been. So I finally sat up, I played it. I even did a video on it, so you guys can check that out. Of course, with it being, an option, the first thing I did was play Resident Evil 4. Could have played Village, but why do that when you can play 4? So, Resident Evil 4 was my first PSVR 2 experience, and it was absolutely amazing. I couldn't believe it. And I've done VR, I want to say 5-6 times total. I think doing, setting up the PSVR 2 and playing RE4, I think was the 6th time I've ever done VR. Honestly, or maybe 7th. I know I did a little ride with my youngest one time where it's you put the little goggles on when you sit in the car at the arcade. But other than that, not much. I still remember the first time I ever experienced a VR headset, which is, who the F knows what it was. It was early. But I was in college and it was just floating around the solar system, and it's wow, you move your head, you can look around the corner and stuff like that. You're looking at all the planets. And I played a couple times at the arcade, or not even at the arcade, at anime conventions where they have the arcade setup. So not even official arcades, but just at anime conventions, you can play a little PSVR 1 and play the little thing where it was basically like Pong, where you just move your head left and right and you move the board to, bounce the ball back and forth. And that was about it. Little experiences like that. I played a tiny bit of RE7 in VR before the game came out when they were doing a tour event, and I got to experience that. So that was really cool. And of course, everybody says RE7 was amazing in VR. And, it's a scary game when you go through it in general. Then you do it in VR, and it's holy crap. Who knows what'll happen? Maybe that can get a PSVR 2 update. I kind of doubt it will. But who knows? We'll see what ends up happening with that. But I finally got to use my PSVR 2, and it was really good. And I've always thought VR was going to have its place in gaming, and it definitely does. Obviously, we have more than one VR headset. Once you have more than one thing, it's okay, it clearly has its place in gaming. Right now we're going through kind of the portable wars with Steam Decks and the ROG Allies, and that being in competition now with the Switch 2 and stuff like that. But we've had multiple VR headsets. We got the Meta Quest. I think the Vive became the Quest 3 or something. I know there's some stuff there, but there was more when they first kicked out, more companies at least. But now we're kind of down to PSVR 2. We'll see how that goes if, as far as the future of the PlayStation 5 and if they transfer it over to the PS6 and stuff like that, which admittedly with the updates that consoles have now, I think the PSVR 2 might actually be able to transfer over to the PlayStation 6. We'll see what happens with that. Hopefully that's still a couple years out. I still need my Resident Evil Code Veronica remake to stay on this console, so I know for sure. But PSVR 2 is actually really good. I wish I could say just go out and buy it. but it's hundreds of dollars. I think it's like two something now compared to the effing $500 that they were charging before. But still, you got to make sure you know that there are enough games for you to want to play. I, of course, have Resident Evil as my favorite franchise, and Capcom is like the only company that consistently dedicates VR. Like, ever since they started with 7, they were like, all right, well, we do VR modes. You know, the game, obviously 7 was straight up VR, or first person. And then RE8 comes out, and of course, similar situation, like, hey, you know, you can do first person, so here you go. And then RE4 came out, and that was the first remake that they did after they started doing, well, I guess it wasn't the first remake that they did, because the 2 and 3 remake came out after. So I'm not sure why they didn't attach it to that, but maybe it was because they weren't first person games, so they were still kind of going back and forth with that, and now they've gotten to the point of, you know what I mean, heck, RE9 is coming out, and you can literally just choose first person or third person. So I imagine that one's going to be even better than RE4 in VR, because it's kind of built from the ground up to be like, hey, you can do first person and third person. So if we do this VR update, we're going to have to make, you know, I would assume they're going to make a lot more stuff interactive where you can pick things up and throw them and stuff like that. Could be wrong, but, you know, we'll just have to wait and see on that regard. But for RE4, it's super fun. Like, I had a great time with it. Like, and I played, honestly, I was in my, using my VR setup for like around 2 hours, but I think I only played the game for like an hour because I was messing around with the setup for so long. But I had a great time. Like, you know, just the headset vibrates, the hands vibrate, or I should say, you know, the controllers vibrate. And the way they have it set up, at least for, you know, Resident Evil 4, once again, so far it's my only experience. I didn't try out the Horizon game yet, but I know that one's more built for VR, so I'm excited to test that out too. But the way that they have the game so detailed, even for just a VR update, because the game wasn't built with VR in mind. It was built as a third-person shooter, just like the 2 and 3 remake. And then because they gotten accustomed to it, it's like, okay, now we can do VR. And they have, like, you can see your forearms and stuff. And I actually watched a video yesterday, excuse me, where it was like, hey, here's like 10, you know, this video, of course, every video I looked at was like, you know, 2 years old at this point, because there's not that much new Resident Evil 4 VR content popping up. But I was looking at old videos, I was like, oh, I'm sure there's random things that I haven't just decided to try out yet, so let's see what happens. And so I watched this video that was like, hey, here's like 10 random cool things that you can actually do in VR. And one of the cool things they showed is that if you have the alternate costumes in the game, you can actually switch your costume, and it's not just for cutscenes, because you watch the cutscenes like normal when they pop up, even when you're playing in VR mode, it switches, and then it's like just watching it on the big screen. But I thought it was like, oh, okay, you know, we'll just go regular, you know, costumes. And I didn't even think about it when I was playing, where I was like, oh, it's cool. You can see the forearms, you see your hands and your fingers and stuff. And in the video, it was like, yeah, if you switch the costumes, they put all of the costumes in the VR mode as well. So every costume that you have, they have the design, you know, at least of like the forearms, where, you know, if you're wearing this jacket, it shows the jacket. They show like the villain costume where it's kind of like an asymmetrical design where one of the arms has like feathers going all the way up. So in VR, one of the sleeves has feathers on it. Like, you can see all of the different designs and stuff. And I was like, oh, that's actually really cool. I didn't even think of that when I was playing the game. It was just like, okay, cool, that's cool. You have the jacket. But if you switch costumes, you have the arms. Like, they put the arms in there. And I think that's a great idea. I thought that was super cool. Little intuitive things that you can do in the game, like hold the flashlight, even though it pops up on your head automatically. You can just pick the flashlight up if you want to hold it yourself, and you can even turn it on and off. It's kind of like no reason to turn off the flashlight, because the point of the flashlight is it automatically turns on in dark situations. But in VR, that's kind of cool. You can just do it if you want to. So it's super fun. Like, and there's things you can do in VR that you just can't do in the regular game. Like, you can throw your knife. You can't do that in the regular game, but you can do it in VR. You can just toss the knife and throw it at people. You can launch it across the sky. Like, I think I did it like 2 times, where the crows at the beginning of the game were kind of far away, and I was like, okay. And I would just, you know, it took me a minute, believe me, it took me a while to get it right. But you can just throw the knife and just hit a bird from far away, and it was like, holy crap, that's insane. Like, it feels crazy. So, honestly, I think I'm right back to where I always was. Like, I always thought VR was going to have a bigger place in gaming, and it's had a steady place in gaming for sure. We have, you know, the MetaQuest and stuff like that. I think Valve had theirs. Was theirs the Vive? Was the Valve, was HTC or something? Like, once again, I know that there were multiple companies at one time. I think Vive and MetaQuest are teamed up or whatever now. But it was like the Valve headset was like the thing to get, back at the time, and now it's like, hey, you can get the MetaQuest where you can get all the PC stuff, and you can get the PSVR 2 if you want to do that, of course. But I think it's gonna be, it's still within a decade. Like, honestly, at this point, it's very clear that the only entry barrier is the cost. And I don't know if cutting it down, as far as the PSVR 2, cutting it down to like I don't know what the actual current cost is. Like I said, I got mine before they even lowered the cost, and I also got it on sale. So the sale that I got is lower than whatever the MSRP currently is. So I still got it cheaper than what it costs right now. So, actually, by the time I put this out, maybe, possibly, if you've been looking into it, it should be July 9th. I'm filming this on the 7th, but I know like the Amazon Prime Day start on the 8th. Maybe check it out. It might be worth looking into if you've been thinking about it. Just throwing that out there. Not trying to get you to waste your money, but if you've been thinking about it, it might be on a decent discount right now as everybody tries to, get stuff on, out of the warehouse. But I think it's really fun. I think we got within a decade. I don't know if 5 years is too short, but like 10 years feels like it might be too long. I think within that span, maybe 7 years, 6-7 years. But I know for sure it's the cost of entry. And the thing with VR is, I think I can't say it's like hit its peak, hit like the max of what it can do. I think there's still, ways for it to change and develop, but it does play at, I'm pretty sure it's pretty much at 4K 60, or it's like slightly downres or something like that, but it looks amazing. Like when you're in it, like you're not even really thinking about it. I mean, you're in VR, like it's 60 frames per second. I'm pretty sure it's 4K, and it looks insane. Like it's so hard to explain. Like really, when you're in it, it's so different than just watching it. It's so different. Like I walked into the village for RE4, and I was legit just like, wow, like I'm in the village. Like I'm in the village. Like it covers your whole face. Like no color or light leaks in. It is just you looking around inside of this virtual reality. Like it's crazy. So I think it's there. Like that really showed me. Like once again, now that I actually have like a full experience, that's the longest I've ever been in a VR headset. Having done that for like over 2 hours straight, that's the longest I ever used a headset before. At most, it would be like, hey, here's like, maybe 10, 15 minutes. And that's it. That has always been my extent. It would be like, here's a solid 10-minute chunk of gameplay, or 15 minutes, and it's like, okay, I'm done now. Or, for the RE7 thing, it was like, all right, the demo's over. It was a very small section of the game that we got to see. And it's like, wow, that's really cool. And that was it. It was like, wow, 15 minutes. It's like, yeah, that's nice. But having done it for 2 straight hours, it's like, this is how people should play games. I mean, obviously not every single game on earth needs to change into VR or even have a VR mode. Like, I wouldn't expect that from every single thing on earth for every company to be like, we're gonna dedicate an entire thing to VR. I don't expect that. It would be nice if more companies did do it, but once again, I don't expect it. But I do think we're gonna get to a point within a decade where they finally figure out that cost to creation situation. And it's funny to say that now with the way things are. It's a little scary because of just how crazy consoles are getting, where we're literally at a point for the first time in gaming history where games, or specifically the consoles, raise prices after years of already being out. The Xbox has already done it. Nintendo's talking about doing it. Who knows if it happens within the next couple of days of me recording this, where it's like, hey, we put out the Switch 2, and now the Switch 1 costs even more money. Like, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. And Nintendo, once they started up with the whole Switch thing, like, yeah, we don't lower our prices at all anymore, because they didn't do that until the Switch came out, which is the craziest thing in the world. If they really stick to that, I don't know. I might never play a Switch game again. I might, because I'm not feeling it where I have to, pay full price for that. But that's kind of a different topic. But everything with the rising cost of games and just how weird things have been lately, that's the only tricky part of this whole situation. Because I'm like, the technology's there. Just like with the consoles, the tech is there, and it's really good, especially if you get to actually experience it, because it's one of those things where you're just like, yeah, VR is kind of nice. Obviously, you also have to have the games. As a Resident Evil fan, I could be fine for a long time. Like, I'm pretty sure I played the OG RE4 like 13 times or something. RE4 Remake is absolutely amazing. Time-wise, I might not be able to do it as a guy who has kids now, but gameplay-wise, it's like, okay, I could probably stick to RE4 a million times over. I played the original like 13 times. I can do VR 13 times. Like, I'm telling you, the amount of guns you get in that game and the things you can do, I could play VR 13 times and still have fun with it. I can promise you that, and that's just for RE4. So I know I'd get my money worth. I know I'll get my time out of it eventually. And of course, every VR headset does come with a Horizon game as well. So, off the top, you get that one, which was, kind of deemed as okay by most people. I haven't experienced it myself yet, but I'm also a Horizon fan, so I might like it a little bit more than a lot of people did, even if it's much simpler. It's not open combat like a lot of people hoped. I know that was kind of the big thing about it. Like, you kind of strafe a little bit, and that's really the combat. And it's like, oh, that's unfortunate. But I'll probably enjoy that, I'm sure. RE8 VR mode, I'm excited for. RE9 will of course have a VR mode, which I'm excited for. And now that I've gotten into VR, I've of course been looking at other games. I was looking at PC stuff. I'm like, I gotta buy that PC adapter. I gotta play Half-Life Alyx. That's just, it has to happen now. So it's kind of funny, instantly getting into it and be like, okay, I have a whole new list of games and things that I want to play, which, of course, infinite backlog additions already. But for VR, they might get put to the forefront because it's just a little bit more entertaining. It's the next step. So we'll see what happens with the official future of VR gaming, but I think it's going to be a staple. I think it really is just the price. That's the thing that does it. It's always been kind of the thing. Even when they were $300 when the Meta Quest and stuff was coming out, and it was just like, woof, that's kind of crazy just for VR. And of course, because of the fact that it costs so much to do it, that's an issue for people. And then on top of the cost to get the VR system, it's the amount of games versus the cost that you're spending. And it's just like, oh man, I don't know how this is really going to pan out. And then of course, that news, of course, figures and numbers, all that good stuff. Naturally, companies are looking at that and it's like, oh, well, they're kind of like, $300. There's not enough games already. And then it's like, do we make the one extra game? Is that going to make a difference? Who knows? I mean, honestly, and this is something I saw because I was looking at so many Resident Evil videos. Somebody was like, they should have packaged this with the VR. That totally would have worked. I mean, Resident Evil 4, 100% would have been a system seller. I guess you would have to count it as its own. Considering the cost, I'm counting the PSVR 2 as its own system. But RE4 would have definitely been a system seller. Like, hey, here's RE4. You would get both versions of the game. You get classic version if you're not using VR, and you get the VR update was free. So that could have done it. And obviously, because of the way that it's been handled, sadly, I don't think that's going to be the case. I don't think there's going to be anything else where it's like, hey, here's something that's bundled with the VR. It's like, no, you get the Horizon game, that's your bundle, and after that, figure it out. Granted, just buy RE4 on sale. RE4 is an amazing effing game, so buy RE4, buy RE8, and obviously if you're interested in the Resident Evil games, buy those, and you can get them super cheap now. And then boom, RE9 comes out. That'll be the new one. That'll get a VR update, probably a year or so after it comes out. There's 3 amazing. Well, I'm gonna assume 9 is gonna be amazing, and 8's pretty good. It's pretty good. But 4 is amazing, and I'm sure in VR all of them will feel amazing no matter what. But I think it's got a future. We'll just see what happens. It's really just that cost thing. If more people start to develop for it, that cost will start to feel like it's worth it. People are gonna spend the $700 that they spend on the PS4, PS5 Pro. Is because stuff is already there. So I think it's got time. Like I said, within a decade, I think we'll finally be there where people are like, okay, it doesn't cost $800 to buy a PSVR 2, which once again we will see. Like I said, I'm a little worried. That's the thing that worries me because of how consoles have been lately. But we will see, and hopefully the PSVR 2 can actually transfer over to the next PlayStation console as well, because things are going to be relatively the same. 4K 60, I think we'll be set. I think they're sticking with the DualSense. I think we should be good at least for one more generation. That's my hope. But we'll see what ends up happening. But like I said, I've been saving this one up until I actually had my own experience with it. And now I see. I see the vision in virtual reality. It is there. So I would love to know your thoughts. Look up some VR stuff. Look up the way people react to it. Obviously, once again, the price is the problem. But man, when you get that experience for real, and not just those 15-minute chunks, when you play a VR game that's not just Pong or looking at the stars or something like that, and you're like playing it for real, it's a world of difference. Like, I've never experienced anything in VR like that, because that was very different from the little stuff that I had experienced, like the 4 or 5 times I did it before. It's different. It is a totally different experience, and I'm like addicted. Like, I think about it like I think about just having a brand new game, because that's how I felt. It was like, man, it felt like having Resident Evil 4 brand new all over again, like in a totally different way. And now I'm like, man, I want to play Resident Evil 4. That's where I'm at. I'm like, I just got a brand new video game. So it works. I hope everyone gets to experience it going forward. Like, they bring the cost down, more people start to do it. It has a future. It's the fact that it sustained itself for so long shows that it works. We just need that next little step, and I think we got it. And everybody can truly experience, like, holy crap, like, no wonder people lose their minds over this stuff. Like, I get the VR chat thing now, because I'm like, I would never just randomly be talking to people in VR chat all day, all night. But now I'm like, you know what? I see the comedy now. I feel it. I feel the spirit. So anyway, would love to know your thoughts on VR. If you have VR, please let me know your thoughts. Also, let me know your favorite, VR games, whether, PSVR or not. Just in general, what's your favorite VR game right now? If you don't have VR, what's the game that you're like, man, this is the thing I wanted to do most? For me, it actually was Resident Evil 4, because I love Resident Evil. So I was like, that's the one I want to play more than anything else. Man, let me tell you, when that Code Veronica hits, I'm doing the pose. If you get that, you get it. But I've been thinking about that for like years now. Like, man, when the Code Veronica VR hits, hitting the pose immediately. But thanks for checking this out. Like I said, I want to know your thoughts on all things VR. So please put your comments down in the comment section below. And of course, thanks for watching.